Okay, blessings family, please come down and sit down. All of you, we invite you all to come and sit down. We are about to have a conversation with Majed. He's a member of the Shipibo Konibo Xetebo Indigenous Council in Peru. They are located by the Ucayali River in Peru, and he's going to be sharing us what it is that their communities are working on, and the land defense that they're building and working on, how it is that they're building autonomy, self-determination and sovereignty as communities, and also what their demands are on these spaces and on the students in these spaces. Hola compañero, pues realmente le mandamos un saludo fraterno y solidario, pues desde acá estamos ahorita en la ocupación de una universidad que se llama la Escuela de Estudios Orientales y Africanos. Estamos en una cuadra o en un espacio que hemos renombrado el espacio de la libertad de Walter Rodney, que fue un luchador por la libertad africano de Guyana, que está en el Caribe. Y pues desde acá, pues estamos muy agradecidos de que vas a participar usted aquí en este conversación. Y ahorita pues le pasamos la palabra para que nos puede platicar de la situación allá en Perú y también un poco sobre pues cómo es que usted ve que desde acá podemos ir pues también organizándonos y tejiendo juntos. Sí,
Now
por
we have
favor.
introduced to Majed what the session will be about and what Walter Rodney Freedom Square is about.
Muy buenas noches.
Good evening, everyone.
Allá en Gran Bretaña, entiendo.
There in Great
Britain. Allá en Gran Bretaña.
Great Britain.
Su lengua shipibo es el
That is
noches.
Shipibo language.
No sé si será posible que pueda compartir un PPT que tengo organizado.
I would like to share my screen
Si me dan acceso,
as a PowerPoint
para que se
that I
vuelva
have,
también fluida.
so that this can be a bit more fluid.
Y ahora está, ya está. Gracias. Muchas gracias, Marina. Muchas gracias y chavericidad que a cada uno de ustedes.
Thank you very much, Maria.
Buenas noches. Muchas gracias por el espacio y por la
Thank you for giving us the space and the opportunity to communicate and reach what you were doing right now, PRALER. The framework of this university, as we know, it is an emblematic university. In this case, this is a past that it has and the reality that it has brought upon us. Truly what we need is initiatives like this to be able to orient the ideas that we have about originary peoples that are different from Western society. In Peru, people will often have the idea, they often identify the Inca culture. Now the Andean culture, the Inca culture, the culture which affirms and Peruano, the territory. Now I will talk to you about a question, an element of Peru that people don't know much about, which is the Amazon in Peru. Now, there's a high percentage of Peru which is Amazon, not Andean. Now, 60% of Peru is in the Amazon. And within that territory, there are around 53 indigenous people. And within those 53, the Shipibo Konibo Xetebo is one of those peoples. Well, that is what I would like to make clear first. That is what I am here to talk about the representation of this organization. It is one of the 53 indigenous peoples in the Peruvian Amazon. I would like to share with you some facts as well. And I would like to start today to talk about this in focused on human rights and on rights, not on folklore or culture merely. Now, there are 20 indigenous peoples who have had very recent contact with Western society, but there are also indigenous people who desire no contact with society. And at some point, some people have engagement and coordinated engagement with Western society.
De esos 53 que le mencionaba en Perú, 20 pertenecen con esas características. El
So
pueblo Shipibo
there are 20 people within those 53 that I have already mentioned who are under that denomination.
sino es un pueblo que ha mantenido relaciones sostenidas con la sociedad occidental y que las ha sabido desarrollar y
Now, the Shipibo Konibo is the peoples who have maintained specific relationships with Western nations, into Western culture. Now, when you hear about us, you could come visit as well. You can understand the context that we are in. As indigenous people, we identify importantly with our autonomy and with our sovereignty as peoples. We don't identify as our cultures and as a folklore. We identify as peoples with rights to self-determination. The Shipibo Konibo Xetebo organization, the responsibility that we have is the institutionalization of our self-determination. And within that, the institutionalization of our self-determination does not happen only in the political, but also within the economic, religiously, culturally as well. That is why, from our logic, the differences in the secessions that are made within Western academia about what is economics, what is politics, what is cultural, what is natural, we do not see those differences. We see it holistically as part of us. Because all of those different elements are integrated within us as a people. We not only speak about politics, we also speak about economy. We also speak about our culture. And importantly, what we are based on is the potentialities that we have culturally and naturally as a peoples. Now, on the right-hand side, I am pointing right now to the map of Peru. And that the department we are in is Ucayal. That is what I am pointing at right now. Now, in that department, there is one affluent of the Amazon River, the Ucayal River. And in all of that river, the Shipibo Konibo people, we have created our culture around this river, and our settlements are around this river. Our food is dependent on it. Our cosmovision is importantly based on our relationship to the river. That is, whatever initiative, whatever entrepreneurship that we make as a community is based on our self-determination around this. Now, that territory that you can see in the other bigger map is what we consider to be our ancestral territory of Shipibo Konibo people. Now, in any case, we are truly understanding that whatever landscape and whatever territory born to people. People get shaped by the territory itself. We do not speak about ecological corridors. We speak about community because our community extends into the land. Now, because we have this territory that we have since millennia self-governed, we can find in there the sources of our spirituality and the sources of our intellectual cosmovision as well, because those two things for us are deeply embedded and inextricable. Now, in this case, I would like to, this is a slide that shows the situation currently. So there are aspects which are implicating, which are barriers to self-determination, but this is nothing for us to victimize ourselves. We do not victimize ourselves to say, oh no, how could someone help me? How could someone do something for me? That is not our perspective. We are not victims. As an indigenous peoples, we have the strength. We have strengths in which we rely on to be able to respond to the situations that have faced us for 500 years. For example, point one, the invasion of the territory, which you have now seen as a map. External agents have been invading our territory legally and illegally. Illegally, institutions belonging, for example, narco, to the land trafficking, coca leaf growers, but also illegal logging. However, even as there are illegal agents, there are importantly, we need to also emphasize that there are legal agents who also come and invade our territory in the same ways. However, they come with the pretense of their laws. They create their laws according to their rules and their games to be able to come. Now, those are the extractive projects, be able to extract oil. Now, also, we also are threatened by a big road project which is threatening to go through the Amazon on our territory. For example, as well, there is a traffic of land possession because, for example, they make small families sell their territories to be able to grow palm so that they can reduce the primary rainforests. And importantly, I would like to really emphasize the Mennonite roots, which they do an incredibly intensive agriculture, which is a perverse, which is enabled by a perverse process of dispossessing people of their rightful land. That is done periodically and permanently in our territories. They're not, but this is not only a land title, this is actual real life people. Communities are destroyed, families are destroyed. And they are people whose lives, importantly, when they fight back, their lives are in danger and are threatened by the extractive companies that continue and that will not let on. The death of these people is around 1,000 people are killed every single year for opposing the extractive projects and illegal and legal actors. The cruel murders of these people are only truly to be able to take a hold of the lands and importantly to create terror in the hearts of all others who know about this.
Él amenazado precisamente por defenderse, por dar la cara, por pelear. Esto es algo que para nosotros nos preocupa muchísimo.
Now, this is one of our biggest worries.
Nos permite estos espacios de hablar con ustedes, de poder transmitirles.
Because when we are in these spaces, we need to be able to clearly articulate what our fight is and how it takes place. Because really what we see is that this fight, the struggle that we are in, is a struggle against greed and selfishness. But importantly, it has to do with our duty to be able to defend territory. We understand that a lot of people across the world are engaged in this fight, not only because they're selfish and they want to give up their lands, understanding as well that we have a responsibility with Mother Earth to protect and conserve. This is why this kind of space we are very grateful for, because it allows us to seek alliances, and it allows us to see where our allies are. Now, there are some countries in the world who consider themselves from the first world, who they have industrialized in sophisticated ways, because those are the people that are in the decision-making fields. But when we actually get to the root of it, the expansion of that industrialization is exactly linked to these processes that I have just spoken about.
O una mirada de política monocultural con definiciones del desarrollo.
Now, the second point that I would like to talk about is monocultural politics, with definitions of development very different to the indigenous people. Now, because
algo sumamente importante que el diálogo sobre el desarrollo, sobre
there is no political debate about what is development, what is our development. The politics of development are based on monoculturality, a culture of hegemony. We are not a barrier to development. What we seek is our own development as people. But what we want is for politics of development to have a conversation with us, so that we want to open up the space for dialogue, because there is no dialogue in hegemony. Hegemony is imposed violently only. Now, in our process of self-determination, what we develop is not a way of developing self-determination selfishly. What we seek to do is to develop self-determination in collaboration with our neighbors, with whoever lives among us, next to us, beside us. We do not want a culture of monoculture. We want to express diversity through our ways of developing together. In the other area, in areas of food, health, safety, communications and transport, science and technology, it is fundamental that we develop together the politics that are principal politics based on our cultures and cosmovision. Now, the third thing, which we really think it is important to name, especially in this space, is the loss and appropriation from external agents of our traditional knowledges. We have seen it over the years, how it has developed, that our traditional knowledges now, we have truly struggled, and we really name it as one of our failures of an organization. We have struggled to bring young people along in our political project, and importantly, in creating this intergenerational link between eldership with elder wisdom young people.
la mujer, como ha sido milenariamente en nuestro pueblo,
And importantly, we also see that there is a necessity
y que de cierta manera algunas
to recreate and rebuild the role of women within our societies as healers,
valorar, en este caso, a las sabias mujeres quienes pueden hacer
because there is the prevalence of the colonizing culture which has prevented us from seeing the true relationship that our women have with healing in our communities.
Sistemáticamente, creemos, ha venido un proceso también, nosotros lo llamamos de biopiratería.
Now, there's also been a process of biopiracy. We see it. We know about it clearly. Many of the traditional knowledge that we have is actually incredibly lucrative for capitalist exploitation. But when capitalists come to our territories and extract our knowledge from us about healing plants and what is given from the rainforest for healing, the capitalists do not give us back anything. They just come to take and they patent what has been ours for generations. Now, this is an oppression against indigenous peoples in Shipibo, and the Shipibo peoples. Now we know that we must face this practice of exploitation right now. Even as many of the technological advancements, we know that if there is a dialogue between technology and traditional knowledge, there can be very many positive things for all of us, especially around, for example, the aspect of resiliency, importantly, within the crisis that we are in ecologically. That is why we say that it is fundamental for traditional knowledge to be protected, and that they must not be extracted from and destroyed at the hands of those who seek to make profit from it, because it is our indigenous knowledge. Now, for number 4, I would like to speak about the prevalence of the colonizer culture in the relations with Western society. Now, for example, the use of certain technologies like social media, television, this colonizing culture is something that every single day takes more of a hold within our culture and within our lives. Now, this is why fundamentally we need to put our eyes on the situation and truly ask ourselves, what is this? Because now the 5th thing, the last thing that I would like to talk about is that there is a gap in the attention of basic necessities which go unsatisfied. Now, in the form of our daily lives, in the way that we go about our days, it could be better at the moment because some basic necessities are still unmet in our territories, especially around motherhood and early childhood. This is something that we need to put our utmost effort behind so we can develop as a people economic initiatives to satisfy those needs. Now that I've spoken to you about what threatens us, I want to speak to you about exactly how we deal with that. The first one, for example, about the invaders, the invasions. We have an indigenous guard. We have trained ourselves, we have trained our people, we have trained every single one of us. We have a system of community guardianship. There are people who are permanently alert to what is happening on the territory, who are scouting any danger that comes, and who let us know when something happens, so that we have the knowledge to be able to act promptly to defend our self-determination. No, truly, the way for us to do guardianship needs to be most effective. We have very many challenges in this because people's lives are truly exposed for the defense of our lands and our territories. Now, secondly, we also want to be as present as possible in the spaces of decision making. Now, because of some of these initiatives that we have done, we have been able to also be here today. We believe that media and communications are a very important way for us to get our message out, and this is why we make use of them in this way. The United Nations, to some way, to some degree, has opened its doors because generally now there is a permanent negotiating table for indigenous peoples in the United Nations. Now, nationally and internationally, we need to be able to create those relationships. Now, as a third, I would like to speak about the initiative of guarding our traditional knowledge. This is one of our shamans. It's a meraya. She was assassinated in Bolivia by one person who extracted from her and forced her to share her traditional knowledge. Now, for example, we are creating really big educational programs for our women to be able to engage. The merayas, the healing people and medicine people of our people, they face accusations and persecutions which seek to sanction our traditional sacred practices like ayahuasca. Now, the fourth solution that we have is the promotion of our cultures. We have a traditional practice called Aishe. This practice we have been doing for millenary times. Now, however, for the last 50 years, we stopped doing it. But a couple of years ago, we began again. That there's a cultural belonging to what it means to be Shipibo Konibo, because our values are expressed in our culture and in our cultural expressions. And the last thing is the economic initiatives that we have. We have a cooperative, COSHIKOX. In here, what we are working through is the development of a series of productive chains. This is what we want to consolidate our self-determination economically. Because at the moment, what we seek to do is upturn the current way of doing economy, which is based on greed and selfishness. We want a cooperative to be able to actually create prosperity as well. Now, these are tools that can actually support us. This is why we need to seek just markets. There's an overwhelming offer out there. But truly, which means that the prices that we are able to sell their products for is really a third of what it really means. For example, in plantain, other products, for example, the variation in the price of plantain, that creates a situation which really punishes the community and punishes small landholders. Now, we want to do is we want a TV channel specifically for our people. Right now, We have a Facebook, but we also want a TV channel specifically, or some way of diffusing to the people that live within our community information as a way to truly revitalize our cultural belonging, our cultural wisdom, and our cultural language, because that will strengthen this, that will make strength of what we can do politically. We also have a bank and an agricultural fund so that we continue to build our agricultural capacities collectively. Now, with banks, our experience was when we got involved with them, they would ensnare us. Now our bank is based on freeing up.
Impedía que ellos puedan acceder, ¿no?
Now, for example, many banks just became completely digital without taking into account that the majority of people are not within the digital means. Lastly, we would like to emphasize that we are interested and we would like to look into the institutionalization of our traditional medicine. Now, this would be an intercultural health model. Our health is not something exotic, it is not something strange, it is not something for tourists to come and delve in. It is our way of life. Now, that is what I wanted to share with you today at this time. Thank you very much, my colleagues. Now I have the whole of the disposition of knowing more about you, what you have been doing.
Gracias,
Thank you very much.
Gracias, compañero, por compartir. Pues aquí vamos a ver si hay preguntas. Blessings, family. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Hello. Gracias por el mensaje, por ser muy informativo, muy claro, muy fácil para entender. Y por favor, primero si podemos tener como esa presentación, si fuera posible, para compartir con otros compañeros. Y la segunda es como has hablado del banco comunitario y quería saber cómo la organización, cómo es organizado, cómo refuerza la contabilidad a la comunidad y cómo funciona en realidad, en prácticamente.
Gracias. Sí, en realidad no es algo tan complejo. No lo hemos hecho complejo precisamente.
So that it is not complex, it can reach as many people as possible. Now, at the moment, the culture of saving is not very present where we are at. But really, what we have done is move our resources, not necessarily with money. But we needed to find an easy way and agile way of creating our own economic system and our own economic infrastructure. This is why we created a fund, which actually emerged from a problem that we had with a design firm, which is called Cuna. They paid us an indemnity because they wanted to build on our land. They did not engage in free prior and informed consent. Now, we came up with the idea of creating communications specifically for the people that, for example, create arts and crafts, that they could become part of the bank in a way that was appropriate. Now, the money was not necessarily given to pay things immediately, but really over a period of time, so that they could create the merchandise and prepare it over longer periods of time. And importantly, the money was never given in a lump sum. It was done over a period of time as the community decided to do it themselves. Now, the reality is that the 100% of the loans that have gone out, not 100% of them have been paid. That rarely works like that. But it has embedded within the community and understanding that what we are doing is a cooperative and that economics comes into what we are doing as people in our project for self-determination. And in that sense, the money that was coming in made possible some of the initiatives that were coming out. And at the moment, we are in a phase of consolidating all of these different initiatives and processes together. Importantly, we are trying to establish a culture of saving so that we can continue the work that we are trying to create with our cooperative bank. And of course, we can share the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Gracias, compañero. Rapidito voy a hacer la pregunta en inglés para que todos entiendan y luego en español. So I've got a question to the sibling. I was wondering, for example, how is it that they see that us here, for example, from these spaces, we can begin to actually work together and what actually, building bases that are capable of defending, community rights to self-determination actually look like cross-continentally? How it is that, like, what you would say your demands are over this space and the students in this space and universities in general or faculties in general. Compañero, rapidito la pregunta, pues quería saber cómo es que usted piensa que podemos empezar a tejer juntos de manera como intercontinental y cómo es que a través de cuáles son sus demandas sobre, por ejemplo, estudiantes que están dentro de estos espacios educativos o sobre estas instituciones, cómo es que gente de este lado del mundo puede estar realmente organizándose para también estar enlazado con los procesos que están llevando para, pues, preservar y defender la autodeterminación de los pueblos. Gracias.
Gracias, gracias por la pregunta. Y bueno, yo creo que en realidad hay mucha necesidad de
Thank you for the question. And what I believe is that there is a need for us to be interweaved. What we find important is to create these spaces of learning together and discussion. We need to promote that not only within the academic spaces, but also within community spaces, so that we can establish a permanent process of learning, a permanent process of pedagogy, so that we can truly face the problems that we are facing as a global community. We have permanent contact with illegal actors. And in that case, there is a key need for us to be in decision-making rooms. Now, the countries that you are in is one of those countries that is a decision-making country. Because in that sense, we can foment exchange opportunities for us. Now, we really don't necessarily need development in the academic field to tell us who we are. What we truly need is for our people to be safe and for the initiatives that we have to be implemented. And together, I believe that we can make them happen. Now, something that we think is fundamental is that in reality, the demands that we have are not exclusive to us. They never have been. The demands that we have are demands that people across the world have, and that even you as young people in your context of urbanity can have too. Now, what we can propose and realize is that we can create a process of political formation, of political culture, of education, about what it is that the different challenges we are facing are, especially what are the challenges that are coming out of the United Kingdom. And probably what that necessitates is a permanent space of learning. For example, a virtual classroom. In the practice in Latin America, we are very hooked on social media. So that is why, for us, social media would be also a way to disseminate and communicate. Now, this communication of people to people, it also needs to be collectivized. We need this communication right now to be enriched. And it needs to be enriched from the necessity of us bringing a message. What we have, for example, we have a radio. We could do radio shows together so that you could share with us your initiatives and what you are doing. We would also like to translate your initiatives to our language. We know that knowledge is something invaluable. And as we hold on to our traditional knowledge, that doesn't mean that we might not value other people's knowledges. There are very, very many technological changes that could be really helpful for our daily life. So in that sense, I also see that as an opportunity for us to band together in allyship. And I hope that we can come to a place to concretize it. These are all general questions, but they're also very punctual, tangible, specific things that we can do together. We could do this, for example, again in December, in a way that is articulated, so that we can develop work that might be more pressing. For example, an article and research paper that you may write, something that we can, or even a blog that we can share between ourselves for our shared learning. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, compañero. Realmente eso fue algo muy concreto y realmente pues justo estamos en plan de eso. Sí, realmente creo que pues son cosas muy concretas, ¿no? Y podemos empezar a ver, yo creo que eso de la formación política es algo muy importante porque de este lado pues también hace falta, a veces no se hace ese trabajo como sostenido de educación política y sobre todo si esa educación política y formación política sea una formación intercultural, ¿no? Creo que eso realmente sería otra perspectiva y otra forma de hacerlo como más relevante, digamos, al mundo en que estamos viviendo. What I'm saying to him is just that I think that idea of doing like political education is actually very concrete, especially if it's done like through interculturally, because then it's not so much just like theories and stuff, but really bringing it into the practical, which is what this is really about. And yeah, I just want to say thank you. So, gracias. Sara, no sé si tienes preguntas también. You can put it in the chat. Ok, la pregunta de Sara es, ¿cómo ve la situación de la autodeterminación indígena en el contexto continental? Sara was just asking, how does he see the situation of self-determination, indigenous self-determination on a continental context?
Sí, en realidad es un desafío todavía, es su proceso inicial, a diferencia de los...
This is still a challenge. It remains a challenge. Now, some people across the world, we know that some people across the world have very specific and strong self-determination processes going on. Continentally, we still face many challenges, especially because the state continues to criminalize and see the self-determination processes of peoples as threatening. You know very well that the Amazon has been seen as something exotic, of something unwelcoming, of mystery, a wealth of natural resources, a bank of gold.
Entonces, hay mucho desconocimiento sobre lo que es la Amazonía. En tal sentido,
these are all of the preconceptions that people have on the Amazon. And it is exactly because of that understanding that people have of our territory, which creates the environment for really aggressive politics, really aggressive policies to come. This is why the state entirely is within that dynamic and within that vision. That is why their initiatives about land are really about the expansion of exploitation. This is why when we as peoples create our processes of political formation, we are able to hold the line with the state. And behind that, there needs to be a logic of economic self-determination, of solidarity economics, cooperative economics, and economics based on life, on togetherness. And that is what I can say for our indigenous people.
Gracias, más bien, Marina. Gracias, Marina.
Thank you very much, Marina.
Sí, gracias, compa. Una pregunta más solo. Pues se trata más sobre lo que explicó de la importancia de concretizar cómo avanzamos. Y por mi lado, lo que me interesa mucho es como esa cuestión de formación política, ya que con la facilidad de traducción es muy importante que estas formas de resistir, de organizar, se llevan, Sara, se llevan más allá, como al continente de África, por ejemplo, donde comunidades están avanzando en procesos muy parecidos. Yo trabajo con una formación, iniciativa que se llama Sanko Bakumba, se refiere a un tipo de educación popular de base que se trata de vincular como el continente con la diáspora, pero también nos interesa mucho cómo es que nos formamos juntos y eso también refiere a que el espacio que ocupamos acá en Londres lo tenemos exactamente para esta dirección, es decir, para hacer más a menudo esos tipos de formatos donde invitamos a más gente, diferentes personas para entender mejor y por eso. Y así quería decir que su propuesta está bien recibida y muchas gracias también por ser muy clara y también en hacer la importante, porque a veces es que la gente no ve con tanta la capacidad de enseñar a los demás, incluso cuando no ves como la lucha como justo enfrente. Así tenemos mucho, yo mismo tengo mucho respeto a usted y como ¿Cómo ves la importancia de la educación de todos y sí del mundo para que nos intercambiamos mejor? Muchísimas gracias, compa.
Gracias a ti por esas palabras y por la motivación.
Thank you, compa, for those words and the motivation. Thank you very much. I have so much respect for you. I really feel so joyous at being able to be here with you today. I really value the time that you are given to this. You could be doing anything else. I bet that there are many other things to do in London, but you are here, interested in building your youth as persons that can be accountable. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor. And count on me to continue to build together.
Bueno,
Vamos a venir a...
Bueno, para que nos veas
Thank
un
you.
poco, desde lo llamamos la Plaza de Libertad de Walter Rodney, uno de nuestros ancestros africanos, que era un guerrillero intelectual muy importante en nuestra lucha. Te saludamos desde acá de Londres y sí.
Un abrazo. Gracias. La lucha sigue.
La lucha sigue.
Un abrazo.
Nos quedamos en contacto, seguro.
Dale, un abrazo.
Y la presentación. Gracias.
Sí, dale. Chao.